Can you hear me? It's okay? Okay, just an additional point about my bio that was not when I was introduced. I also use actively Scala. I'm a big fan of Scala and also a regular BSD users for a few years ago. Okay, but I'm here to share with you our experience in Amadeus about how we want to set up continuous delivery. And yeah, the title is fairly long. Behind the scenes, look at Amadeus experience. And I just want to share with you where we come from, why we want to set up continuous delivery, and where we want to go. And fortunately or unfortunately, how we are covering the gap, starting from the legacy situation toward the situation that you want to set up in the future. So here's the agenda of this presentation. First, I'm going to talk about Amadeus, mainly because I think to understand where we come from and what we want to set up, you need to have a good vision about our figures, our constraints, what's our business. Because yeah, from one point or another, you need to understand what we are doing. I will just make a quick state of the art of our situation in our company and summarizing what is our continuous delivery maturity, how far are we in that direction. Then I will describe where we are going, what we want to set up in the future. And of course, it's not straightforward, and I'm just going to describe how we are reaching this goal, what we have decided to set up, what kind of problems we had to solve, and how we solve them. And just to take away conclusion to sum up what I described in this presentation. And Q&A, but I have the thing that today people are really shy, so do not hesitate to ask. Okay, just a few words about Amadeus. I will just share with you some facts on figures. So I'm not sure you ever heard of Amadeus because this is a company that is mainly doing B2B business. So we are dealing with airline companies, with travel agents. So there are chances that if you have ever done a travel, even by train, by car, booking an hotel, using Expedia or whatever, there are chances that you have used Amadeus without even knowing it. Because Amadeus is an IT company dedicated to the global travel industry. And we have two main business lines. At the beginning, we started with what is called distribution. Distribution is mainly being a bridge between the airline companies that provide some flights and the customers. Customers being either end users like you, but also companies that want to do some business travels. And we have diversified our services by providing IT solutions. And today, we have really a global leisure position because we are involved in the whole life cycle of the travelers. So you can see it with this picture, and we are almost in all your travel life. And this is a kind of critical service because some services that we offer are today mission critical in the sense that, for example, we have a service that is called departure control system that helps people to board. And if this system is not available today, planes cannot take off. So we just cannot say, yeah, there is a problem, don't worry, we are gonna fix it. We really need to fix it quickly, if we want to have happy customers and happy travelers. Okay, some figures. In Amadeus, there are more than 10,000 people overall the world, and more than 5,000 dedicated for research and development. And we are present in many countries. This is just a map, and you can see that we have main sites. Oops, excuse me. Wrong button. And we have main. Okay, the red button. It's like there is a. Okay, I won't use it anymore. Demo effect. So we have main sites in Nice, where I come from. It was sunny, but see, it's sunny here either. We have main sites in Boston, Munich, mentioned, and Bangalore. And we have other sites all around the world to be close to our customers. We are dealing with more than 100 airlines, mainly websites on reservation. We are boarding a huge number of passengers, more than 615 million last year. And we are dealing with a really large part of the world schedule network alliances. More technical figures, I mean, on the code itself. Today, there is a huge number of lines of code. You can count 220 million lines of code. This is very big. I admit we do not make always cleanup, and this is a problem that we have to solve. It is related to quality, to stuff I'm going to cover in a minute. But this is a huge part of code, and we are using C, C++, Java mainly, but also Perl and other scripting languages like Ruby, for example. We are dealing with more than 1.6 billion transactions a day, so we need a huge infrastructure. And our database is more than 10 petabytes of storage, so we just cannot say, okay, we're going to do a dump, a restore, and then we can do some tests. We have some operational constraints. And of course, when you are booking, you don't want to wait for hours until you get an answer. So we have an average response time of less than half a second. And of course, with all our companies that pay expensive licenses, we have in counterpart strong availability SLA, and we must be really reactive to any problem. Okay, these figures were just to introduce you what is the business of Amadeus. We are really dealing with a huge volume of code. We have customers, but all customers are the same. They always want everything faster, cheaper, and they don't want any trouble. And this is one of the problem we had. Recently, we had a reorganization two years ago. And of course, when there is a reorganization, there is some rationalization. We want to analyze what are the pain points, what can be improved. And basically, as many companies, we want to focus on quality improvement because we are not delivering the expected level of quality that our customers want. And we have to improve that. And of course, they also want always faster new features. So we want to improve our quality and increase our delivery frequency. It reminds me what we had previously in some presentation, and I think, and we are convinced before, that continuous delivery can really help us to solve this problem. We really think that continuous delivery can help us to focus on quality by detecting earlier in the process the defects, because we really think that if we have automatization of the build, we can really react faster. And of course, continuous delivery can help us to be more agile in the sense that we are going to automate much our delivery process. So if we automate that, we can deliver more often and with more confidence. Because from time to time, when you have not an automated delivery process, you have to do it manually. Manually means fear, mistakes, whatever. If you have set up a global automated delivery process from qualification to production, you can just say, okay, it's just an habit. We are just an automatic deployment in production, and we can manage also the fallback. So we strongly believe that continuous delivery can help us. But yeah, as I said, what is our CD maturity today, or I would say 6 months, or what was our maturity 6 months ago? So here's the outcome of the kind of internal audit that we made internally. We have very various heterogeneous stacks. And when I say various, this is just amazing. We are using, for example, for the source code management, we are using ClearCase, Mercurial, CVS, SVN, VSS, and also Git. I think it's a complete list. But there are tens of releasing cycle tool processes. Some teams, small teams, 10 people, have developed their own integration process using their own Jenkins, while others have developed for a whole group of hundreds of people a better integration mechanism, continuous integration mechanism using, for example, the CloudBees Enterprise Jenkins solution. So we have really various of processes. And of course, they don't do exactly the same thing. They deliver different kind of archetypes and so on. There is no homogeneity. Another pain point that we observed is that we have to face issues with the remote sites, in the sense that, okay, all our development servers are mainly hosted in Nice, but people from Boston, when they have to synchronize their code, it can be really a pain. And it's the same in London or in Bangalore. So really, it created a kind of frustration and problem for the developers, because they were generally out of sync. We had to solve this kind of issues. And that's why distributed SCM can be a good solution to help us, or to reduce the impact of the distance. And this is also a really big problem. There is no uniform terminology. Different teams have different versioning system. They are using different branching model. When they talk about a release, they are not talking about the same thing. So there is a big set of problems, and we don't speak the same language if you come from the Java world or from the C++ world. It's a big company, so it has grown on small division, on small silos, and with the organization we decided that we should put something together and rationalize, and that is when you discover this kind of problems. And I would say that probably almost big companies have this same kind of problem, especially when they acquire some other companies with different habits or processes. Just to sum up the pain points. So the tooling is very inconsistent, and this is really a big problem for the developers, because if you are a developer in a team, you have taken some habits to use some tools, you move to another team, you have to learn everything again. And of course, you are going to say, yeah, but it was better in that group before, why are not we going to use this tool? And there are advantages either on the new solution. So it's really a problem, because every developer who is moving from one team to another has to learn many things again and again. This is a waste of time. This is a big frustration, because it has the feeling that it's not doing business, focusing on the added value, just to learn how to use tools again and again. And from time to time, tools does not do everything that they expect. Of course, we don't speak the same language, as I said, and this is a problem. We don't use the same word. We have not the same level of quality. So some teams have defined, for example, I came from the e-commerce division, where we are doing mainly Java, using continuous integration based on Jenkins. So we have a strong unified way to do continuous integration for about 1,000 developers. So we really were able to have the same definition of quality. We are using Sonar, so we have some rules, some policies that were common to all these developers. When we take C++ developer, on the other hand, they have not defined this kind of homogeneous policy, so that a team can say, this is a good level of quality that can go in production, while another team can say, no, for the same quality, that it's not acceptable. So this is something that is really complicated, because, again, we are not talking the same language. And for DevOps, I mean, mainly for people, especially for people in operations, it's just a headache, because they have to develop tools, to adapt their tools to the different archetypes that are delivered, the way they are delivered, because there is no homogeneous way to deliver releases. So you add mainly 3 different tools just to load things in production. And this is really inefficient. So I suppose you guess what? We are not really mature, and we need to unify our tooling and avoid having these different kind of Swiss knives that do not do exactly the same thing. But we should try to put them together and to harmonize that. But maybe avoid that either, because just putting everything together is probably not a solution there. So what are we going to achieve? What do we want to do, and what is our journey towards this goal? First, we want to have an homogeneous stack, at least in plural, because we are not going to unify everything for Java on C++ and C, because there are really strong differences. But basically, we would like to have few stacks and a few common way to build and to deliver. We really want to have something that, I would say, 3 pipelines, but with the main idea, with the main workflow. Even if we do something differently internally because it's C++ or Java, we would like to have something that everyone can understand and share. We want to define common terminology and common quality standards. This is really important. If we want to provide something of quality, we need to be in line everyone about what is quality, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So we need to speak the same language and to define the same rules, the same policy about what is quality. And in the past, I think it's a bad habit in many companies, we tend to reinvent the wheel. So yeah, there is some tool that exists that is open source or whatever, but it would be so fine to redevelop internally your own tool. So we really want to enforce the usage of a standard industry process and tooling, and especially I'm going to cover in a minute Stash, Jenkins, and so on. First, the advantage is that you don't have to develop it by yourself, and you can focus on your business value, developing the soft you are developing and not being bothered by anything else outside. But also, if you are hiring new people, they are already trained and know how to use the tool. Let's say you have developed your own internal tool and someone's coming. There are few chances he's aware of how to use it, of how it works. Let's say, for example, if you decide to use Git, there are many trainings online, tutorials, and you can learn it by yourself. If you are using Jenkins, Stack Overflow will help you. You have the community, and everywhere you can find many support for free. If you develop your own tool, you have to maintain documentation to make it evolve, and so on. Definitely, we really want to enforce usage of standard industry tooling. And we would like it to be straightforward, easy to learn. We don't want to create, again, a huge process where you have to interact or ask all the time, okay, what's the next step, what should I do? And we really want to have to use as much automation as possible and to keep a few points where there is a human manual intervention to say, okay, let's process forward. And we don't want like people have to fill a form with 20 or 30 questions like, did you do that, did you do that? Just people get lost, and generally the answer is, I don't know, no way, and so on. So really, we really want to make it simple and intuitive. Okay, this is a big picture of what we would like to set up. So we would like to have different kind of service with an orchestrator whose purpose is to trigger the task one after the other. The idea is that we would like to use Stash with Git for the common development platform. We would like to rely on a Jenkins-based build system that we call Software Factory, using a common artifact repository based on Nexus to store the outcome of our builds. Sorry, I don't know if it's too technical. I will try to remain really high level, but if you want more details, I think we can talk about that just after the presentation or during the questions. What we would like to do is that each service has its own role. We have the common dev platform for storing and maintaining the code. So Software Factory makes the build, and the common artifact repositories just store the artifacts. And the orchestrator is in charge of saying, okay, that's done, now it's your turn, and so on. And when we have finalized the build, what we want to do is to pick the artifact, the outcome of the build, and deploy them on some platforms. Okay, these platforms is very generic. It can be a platform for personal usage. Okay, you want to do tests on some builds, you will get a platform. But it could be also user acceptance test, QA, or even production. Okay, for production it's a bit special in the sense that we don't want to have full automatization of deployment in production, in the sense that if there's a problem, we want for this step a kind of manual intervention. And of course we have also automate testing that will be triggered by the orchestrator in order to shoot some integration tests on a dedicated platform. So behind the scene, what we want to enforce is the usage of the pull request mechanism that people might be familiar with if you are using GitHub, for example. The idea is that we want people to do some pull requests when they submit their changes, and these pull requests will follow a complete cycle. They will be built. We will generate code quality reports using Sonar on other checks. and we will deploy the outcome of this build in a common artifact repository. Then this transitory artifact will be deployed on a platform and tested. And all this kind of tests will be aggregated in a kind of metadata or report associated to the pull request, so that someone can say, we really want to insist on the fact that we want that a human person will say, okay, the quality of the pull request is at that level, there are some code review that has been performed or whatever, and then someone will say, okay, we can merge the pull request. We want that any request to improve the code is managed by a human, because if you automate this part, in the past we had the experience that people will say, it wasn't me, it was automated, and some breaking code can go forward and up to production. So we want that some human say, I am responsible. I wake everyone. So someone can say, I am responsible of this code change. If it's going in production, I am responsible, because it's easy to hide behind someone else saying, yeah, it was not me, it was automated, it was a process. So we have few steps where we want that someone will say, yes, it's my responsibility, it's my duty, I take the ownership of this merge. And just a last point, when the code is merged, once again, we will generate new artifacts that are candidate for production, these ones, because the code that is in pull request is just a transitory code. And then when it's in the repository, it will propagate it with new metadata, especially QA reports, and also stress test reports, and so on, so that when production can, when we want to deliver some deliverable in production, we can see into the metadata associated to this deliverable all the reports. Did it pass the QA? What is the unit test status? What is the sonar report? Whatever. So production can say, okay, I take your deliverable, or I don't want it. So we really want to have this kind of decision made at different steps, and we want to keep some human interventions, but not too many, because the idea is that, for example, we don't want that deployment platform being a pain. So what have we done so far? We have mainly been working on the blue part on the left, I would say, on we are still working now on the automatic deployment. There are some solutions that are different, coming from the different parts of the organization, and we try to unify the way that we deploy the platforms. And just a parenthesis, for example, in the C++ world, they had the habit to do the test, integration test on the same environment than where they build the artifact. So it's like they pick the code, build it, and then perform the integration test at the same place. We really want to fight against that, in the sense that for any reason, they can forget to put something in the artifacts that they are going to deliver. We really want to differentiate the build phase from the test phase. So we can test that what is generated in the repository is really something that is reproducible, that can be deployed, and that can be tested. We really want to separate build from compilation from runtime. And of course, it's not easy, because there are some, let's say, mistakes where some variables were set at build time that were used when the tests were done at runtime, so just not easy to solve. Okay, so far so good, that looks easy. We just have to say, okay, now it's time to set up this infrastructure, and everything is going to be fine. Unfortunately, there are some different kind of difficulties. First, technical difficulties. So yeah, you can guess that it's not easy to set up and to make work together Java, C, C++. But there are also non-technical difficulties. And I'm just going to cover the role of my group, the software development engineering, and of my team, on how we can help to solve the problems that I'm going to describe. In the next slide, when I'm talking about SDE, it's just at Amadeus, we really like trigrams, acronyms with 3 letters. But this time, I think it makes sense, because if I have to write on any slide software development engineering, it's going to be painful. Okay, some technical difficulties. We have an heterogeneous stack, and we need to provide some heterogeneous solutions. We are not going to build C like we build Java, for example. So we need to define a common set of solutions. And for that, we are recommending to use the literate API. So someone in my team is contributing to the Literate API project. And the idea is that, just in a quick word, the principle is that you don't have to prepare yourself your Jenkins job. Basically, you define into the code itself the instruction to build and to deploy. So what we are going to do in our infrastructure is we are saying, thanks to a description file, that we want this kind of environments, this kind of parameters, like I want to compile on a Windows environment, I need Maven with such version of Java, for example. And then we are going to spawn an environment where we will get Windows up and running with Maven and Java installed. And then we are just calling the instructions that are defined in this configuration file. Then we are going to define a common terminology in order to be sure that we all speak the same language and we understand each other. So we had to define what is a release, what we say when we talk about deliverables, and what is complicated is also we want to use semantic versioning in order to be sure that when we are talking about a version, when we talk about backward compatibility, when we are talking about API, we are in line when we are saying that we are changing a version. So basically, we are using the basic major, minor, and patch version. So three digits. The last digits just mean that you can do a change that is not going to change at all the API that you are providing as a service to external customers. If you change a minor, you are adding some features, but you are not breaking the backward compatibility. And if you change a major, you can break the backward compatibility. Looks easy, but not so easy as you're going to see. We are going to define common quality level, so coding guidelines and quality policy. So we just try to define, for example, what are the guidelines to code in Java or in C++. Like we want to afford this kind of features, but we don't want to let you use these ones. And we want to define the same quality policies. Typically, that means that we want that all the unit tests pass. And I don't remember exactly the ratio that we define, but something like 75 or 85% of code coverage to be sure that we have something that is relevant. We must be cautious with when we are talking about setting some values, because I think it's important that if you set too high level for unit tests or code coverage, people are going to test getter, setter, and it's a waste of time and there is no added value. So once again, I think people must empower, understand what is the importance and the role of this unit test, so that on the code coverage, so that they can use it efficiently. A point that is really funny is that you have to make a difference between real requirements from what I call habits or legacy. Let's start with a short story. For example, in the C++ world, they had the habit to build some stuff and to deliver on the file system, and then later the outcome of the file system was deployed somewhere else. Then we come with a different solution using Nexus. So this is a remote storage, and basically they came with the requirements. We want to be able to make some cleanup of the Nexus. We just told them, what is the prem? What is your role in that picture? We just tell you that we are going to store the release there, and we are going to manage the disk space and the cleanup if necessary. So they don't have to take care about this kind of prem, but for them, it was an habit that in the past they always had to clean the code, to clean the artifacts that they generated, and it has become a requirement. And in fact, finally it is not, because when you are doing continuous delivery, you want to take the source from somewhere and put it somewhere else. And they had the habit to use a given path, and they had put a new requirement on this path. And when we are proposing a new path that is not going to the same point, they were saying this requirement is missing. So we had to discuss, to explain them what we wanted to do. But this example is fairly simple, but from time to time, people are just saying, we have this requirement, and you have to deal with them to understand what they really expect and why they did define this requirement. Okay, this was the easy part, because technical requirements are, I would say, rational. When you are talking about technical problems, finally, I'm not saying it's easy, but you have general workarounds, or you can find solutions or mitigate the need. Here I'm talking about non-technical difficulties. what I could say, human part. And this is definitely the most difficult when you are trying to set up a new way of working in a company. And this is very exciting but very difficult because you are meeting people who have the fear of change. They fear losing their expertise. Let's take the example of ClearCase. In 2000, the company decided to use ClearCase. Perfect. I'm not a big fan of ClearCase, but at that time, it might have made sense. Today, I don't think so. But so people have developed some expertise on ClearCase. They have been working on it for 10 years. So they are really experts. And then suddenly you come and say, OK, get rid of ClearCase, CVS, whatever. We are now using progressively Git. So people, they are not very happy. They are saying, OK, I invested much time, much energy to learn technology. Now I'm going to change. So we must understand that these people are not saying, yeah, it's a new technology, I'm very happy. Because in a big company, you have different kind of people. You have people that are really geek, that really like to leave their comfort zone and to learn new things. But you have also many people that have some habits and that feel comfortable to know how to do every day. And we must accompany these people. Because they are really, really numerous in a company. And generally, they have some weight. We must fight again the yet another tool syndrome. This is an extract from XKCD, you might know. And we must fight again this kind of problem like, OK, now we are setting a continuous delivery with this set of tools. And at the end, we have an additional standard without getting rid of the other ones. So this is a big problem. And of course, inertia. Inertia is really, important because moving thousands of people is really difficult. You have to convince them about the added value of changing. Just to sum up these non-technical difficulties, I was just quoting Grace Hopper, and who said the most dangerous phrase in the language is, we've always done it this way. Or for those who know Asterix and Cleopatra, this is a French variant like the amant-beau-fils syndrome. So just to tell you the story for those who don't know, when Queen Cleopatra met the amant-beau-fils architect, she told him that the pool of the crocodile was not working properly, and just said, yes, but we always did that way. So Cleopatra answered, yes, this is your problem. You always do the things the same way. And Amadeus answered, yes, but we always did that way. So this is basically something that is very dangerous when you discuss with people. This is a common answer that you will get. We have always done that way. Why should we change? And you must be clear that you are going to get these questions. Many people just say, I have the ability to use this tool that way. I am doing that. It's working perhaps not perfectly, but I know how it works. I know when it fails. I know how to deal. You are just leaving me out of my comfort zone. And this is really what is the most difficult to us, to help people to leave their comfort zone, be ready to learn something new. And honestly, technical is not really a problem. This kind of concern is really more difficult, and it takes more time. So how did we solve this kind of problems, and especially, I would say, the human one? So we created a group, the software development engineering, and first our goal is to implement this vision of the continuous delivery. So we are doing development and support. But if some of you have already been working in support, you know that generally you cannot answer to the phone, you cannot meet people, you have to work on the new features, you have to prioritize the issues, so you are generally dealing with tickets or ways to communicate, and you are not really responsive. And generally, you are facing the DevOps syndrome or the IT syndrome, like when everything is working, people say, yeah, they are not doing anything. And when things are not working, and that you are not answering or fixing the vulnerabilities, they say, once again, they are not doing anything. So IT people never do anything. So in order to change that, we have created the team I'm working in, and as we said, we aim at being the API with all the development teams. And when we say API, for authentic physical interface. Our goal is really to be this kind of contact point with the development team. What we are going to do is to explain and to share with them what we want to set up in the future and to gather their requirements. So it's really bidirectional and not like we are just spreading the word and saying this is going to be that way and point. Sorry. So what are we going to do is we need to communicate, listen, and show the added value of what we want to set up. We take an active part in training people. So we regularly come to the teams, spend time with them, show how to use the new tools, show them Stash, Git, how to deal with them, how we are using Jenkins, and so on. So really, we spend a huge amount of time to train, communicate, listen, and show. A short story, please do not repeat because I could get into trouble otherwise. With one of my colleagues once, we were talking with someone who was explaining us his branching model. Like, okay, I want to develop the features like that, but then I want to branch. It was just a big mess, honestly. And then my colleague just said, okay, so what you are telling me is that you are testing in QA something that you are not delivering in production, and delivering in production something that you did not test. And the guy answered, yes. So just amazing, but this is really something that we can encounter. We have some people that, and when, of course, when you say that to that guy, you realize that what he made is just not a good idea, but from time to time, we meet people who have created some complex structure, and this is our role to try to make the difference between what is important, what we should change, and what is the real need. And honestly, this is not easy because we have many teams, and they are all creative, and they have all different ideas. Something that is really important, and I think Andrew told it a bit, we really want to avoid constraint, and we really want to have a kind of viral effect. We want to show our product and have happy customers to reach a critical mass so that it can do the buzz by itself. We really want to avoid, like, this is going to be that way, period. And it's a bit different because we have to deal with legacy projects. These projects have huge infrastructure, already developed tooling, and we have also new projects. And this is a breeze to work with new projects because generally they have good habits. They are using best practices, and when we sell them what we want to set up, they are really happy. So we have to find a compromise between encouraging new projects to come to us because they really advocate for us the structures that we want to set up and to have this kind of viral effect, but we need also to embed legacy projects because we also need to identify the gaps and the problems. And this is really where we go into the pain because they have always done things one way and they don't want to change. And of course, convincing developers is not the same than convincing directors, for example. You don't have to use the same wording, the same, you are not going to talk about technology stack to a director. He doesn't care. You have to talk about budget, quality, and so on. So we need to adjust our communication to the audience. So what did we do so far? I think in our team, we communicated well. We spent much time listening, meeting people, and gathering requirements on many trainings. But we did something bad. If I had to change something, I would do it in the future like that. I would show more. We have tried to write many documentation. We had made some trainings. We have made some, we have met people. We have discussed with them. But from time to time, it's better to show them really a real concrete use case because we had some tutorials, some stuff, but these were not real use case. So if I could change something, but we are investing now on that, is to show more something, a full picture with a real project so they can see the real added value of what we want to set up. Okay, in a conclusion, takeaway, we strongly believe in the continuous delivery as a way to improve the quality of our deliverables, to increase our agility to deliver features, also to harmonize and rationalize our production principles, from the build, from the source code, up to the deployment in production. But as I said, migration is really not easy, especially for legacy projects. Do not underestimate the inertia and the fear to change. The legacy is really, really, really complicated. So I would recommend communicate, listen, show, communicate, listen, and so on again and again. We really meet regularly people again and again to talk about the same thing. It's really, the technical problems are really easy to solve. These kind of problems, they take a while, they take energy, and you have to talk again and again. But this is, in my opinion, the best way to convince people. You must be ready to share your passion, your motivation, and to be convincing. Thank you. And a few points. And now if you have any questions, if you are not too hungry. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I think we are going to start with...
Excuse me, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you're right. I repeat the question. The question was about the orchestration tool that we intend to use. And just to answer that point, we have not decided so far. We plan to start with Jenkins at the beginning because we have some features using Jenkins for that. I'm not saying that we are going to use it later, but as we start with something, we think it's better. We know it very well, and it offers the features that we need today.
How much time do you plan to take to adopt continuous delivery in Amadeus?
How much time do we plan to take to migrate everything into Amadeus to continuous delivery? We have strong deadlines. I'm not sure we are going to meet them. We would like to start to have some really critical, mission critical features to be delivered at the end of the year. It's a bit ambitious, but yeah, at the end, we expect to finish at the end of next year. But once again, this is a roadmap on, yeah, we have not strong customer constraints to solve that. It's really for our purpose. But yeah, the roadmap that we have defined today is to have a first candidate for the end of the year on the full migration by the end of next year.
So the overall time would be like 2 years? When have you started this process?
Sorry?
When have you started the process of adopting continuous delivery?
The adoption of continuous delivery started, I would say, more than 1.5 years ago. So there was a discussion, like auditing, to identify, as I said, our continuous delivery maturity, to see what were the pain points, and to make some compromises, and to see also what were our skills. Like, for example, we had some expertise, especially in some division on Jenkins, Sonar, and Nexus. So we thought it could be good to invest on this stack. And there was a kind of, yeah, I would say we started probably, I don't remember because I was not involved at the beginning, but there was a first phase of auditing, discussing about what we wanted to set up. And then the implementation started 8 months, 9 months ago, I would say. A bit more now. Yeah, it was in October last year, so it's more 11 months now.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Hi. So you have all projects you have in the company is a Maven project, or you start to manage all projects because you told you use Maven to part of a build of projects.
Do we have only Maven projects? I would say no. For Java projects, we encourage to use Maven. We have some old projects still using ANT, but they are discontinued, I would say. So we are not developing anymore, investing anymore. So we are not migrating them to Maven, but mainly Maven for Java projects. But for C++ projects, Maven is not the most suitable tool, I would say. And it has been developed for a while, an internal tool that is working very close to Maven. So it's maintained internally, and I think it offers whatever can be expected on C++ side today. So this tool will be kept for C++ side.
What is the best method for you for your company to pass from Ant to Maven, and what is it difficult to do that?
What is our strategy to migrate onto Maven? Honestly, I'm not sure. I know it has been done, I would say 7 or 8 years ago, but I don't remember. And today, all our new projects are using Maven. So we really do not manage migration today from on to Maven. Sorry.
Anyone else?
I'm not sure to have understood the way you made the change. Did you make a global change across all the teams in Amadeus, or did you make team by team change to see how the...
Okay, what is our policy to activate the new continuous delivery? What we do is that it's based on a request. Today, people who want to play, teams that want to play with continuous delivery are welcome. So we meet them and we explain them where we are, what are the gaps, what we are going to set up, and we try to understand the way they are building their components today, and we try to see if it's feasible. If it's feasible, they just can be involved in the process. Otherwise, we try to identify with them the gaps to include in our backlog what we should do to make them available if necessary. Once again, some teams are using Mercurial, and migrating to Git is not very complex. For example, we have some big projects using ClearCase. We ask them generally to make some what we call componentization, to split their big project in smaller pieces of code before migrating, because we think that it will be simpler to integrate small project than a big piece of code. So it depends on the project that are asking, but generally we meet people. This is also our role, to meet people, to understand their needs, what they expect, to show them what we have, what we are going to set up, and to identify the gap if necessary, or to activate, well, I mean, to give them the green flag if there is no issue.
Any other questions?
What is the department who manage your platform of integration, continuous integration? You have a department to manage all the platform, or?
In fact, what is our organizational structure to manage continuous delivery? Basically, we have, with the reorganization, there were many DevSup or quality teams that were dedicated to the different silos, to the different divisions. And we created a new global division for quality or governance, who is in charge of middleware and quality, who is responsible for all, on one side, for the middleware, on the other side, for the quality. And there is a quality division, so with some people in charge of defining coding guidelines and so on. And there is a small group, the software development engineering, who is in charge of developing this new infrastructure, and we belong to this group.
And, what is your deployment tools? So by scripting, or you have a software? Or
can you repeat?
For deployment tool.
Yeah.
It's scripting for the Java project. Scripting.
I would like to use some stuffs like Cargo or whatever. Unfortunately, we have some, for legacy reason, some for historical reason, complex deployment process that have been scripted, and this is something that we are going to change. But I would say we should not fight too many, try to solve too many problems at the same time. First, we want to wrap this service as a common way of deployment, and then we will change that. There are other projects that are migrating us from WebLogic to JBoss, for example, and it will also change the way we are delivering. But what we do is that we have homemade scripts today that pick artifacts from Nexus to deploy them somewhere, because there are some automated tasks that are specific and scripted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pascal.
Okay.